Welcome to my talk at Your Dreaming on the topic of the intelligent project manager leveraging AI for consulting success. Now, before we begin, I would love to pay my respects and also my gratitude to our sponsors because without sponsors, conferences like this could never happen. So PDF Butler, one of my very favorite ISVs, they're so fun. They provide a service to create PDF documents when you are using Salesforce and all the documentation that you need to provide for your clients, for your suppliers, etc. It's a really good add-on that you can find on the App Exchange and also to the Trailblazer community. With that said, let me introduce you to me. Let me introduce you to a little bit about me. And because I'm a project manager by heart, I will tell you my story using a Gantt chart. So you can see here that I started my career in the previous century. I feel very old. 1995, I did my computer science. You can see from the orange bars that since I graduated, I've been working in the consulting industry and began my career in the Microsoft ecosystem. You can see that it's been most of it, except for a small stint. I did an MBA at City University in about 2001, and then I checked out Remedy Partner. Remedy produces software for ticketing, so a bit like Service Cloud. It wasn't that interesting, so then I came back to the Microsoft space, where I've been doing infrastructure, so network servers, Microsoft Mail, Microsoft Exchange, SQL DBA. Around 2006, I started playing with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So you can see where this is going. Around 2012, I decided to check out the end user environment. So I contracted with an end client, a program with a local council integrating housing services with the electoral board in bulky ways and library membership, that sort of thing. After that, I thought I did what I wanted in the Microsoft space, and I joined the Salesforce ecosystems around 2014. So since then, I've been working with a lot of Salesforce partners, including companies like Capgemini and Fontiva, which is an ISV. Around 2020, I decided to launch my own company called Zenhow, where I do training for consultants. I train them how to do discoveries, the business analysis skills, how to write solid requirement, and how to deliver projects in a way that deliver long-term business value for the client. I also train project managers. So you can see I have about 30 years project delivery experience, most of it in the consulting ecosystem. So a lot of what I talk about is through those lens. First part, I was a technical and functional consultant, client-facing, business analysis, configuration, training, testing, that sort of thing. And then towards the latter part of my career, I did project management because I kind of like telling people what to do. I kind of like gathering the team together towards a common objective. Now, something I talk about quite a bit that is quite central to my identity is that about 16 years ago, I joined a charity, a nonprofit in the UK called Samaritans, and which is a crisis phone line for those who are feeling overwhelmed by life, possibly feeling suicidal. And I can kind of plot a chart. And if I were to draw a dotted line down here, my project started becoming easier in the sense that they were green. So if you run projects, we rank them, so red, amber, green, in terms of the health of the project. And they were green because I started listening more to my team, to the client, and I coach my team to listen to each other better. And they're able to just focus on the exciting things that we were doing from a business and a technology point of view. And there were very minimal human drama that I could find in my project, so much so that people started giving me more red projects to try and turn them around. So that's me in a nutshell. But this is what I do now. I provide Consulting Discovery Masterclass, which is a 7-week consulting class with role plays and skills practice for solution and Salesforce partners. I've also just released a self-paced course on consulting fundamentals, focusing on onboarding plan, your week 1, 30, 60, 90-day plan, what it means to be a consulting and to be excellent at what you do and therefore plot out your career for success, remote consulting for graduates, new hires, digital communication, which is quite a different space nowadays, especially after COVID, and also the principles of security and secure data handling, something very few partners talk about, but which is central to what we do for our clients. And also, and this is from my husband, he says I don't promote my books enough. So this slide's actually dedicated to him. I wrote 2 books because I felt that there was a lot of things I wanted to say about the discovery process and about how to ensure that your Salesforce project or implementation is successful. So book 1, Salesforce Discovery, the red one, is written from a partner point of view. In book 2, which is Successful Salesforce Project, and it's written from a client point of view. What do you need to do to ensure that you set yourself up for success when you're engaging with a Salesforce partner? So you're here to listen to me talk about project management and how to leverage AI. Now, let me begin by asking a question. What do project managers do? It is an interesting question. We do a lot. A lot of them sound really boring, but we're the glue that holds the project together. Now, let's have a quick look what that means. So, here is the life of a project manager. First of all, let's look at what a project looks like. We have a discovery, and we have the implementation of what we've discovered. And then after that, we've got releases. So you have the conception of the project, what is it we want to change? Do we want a new platform? Do we want to improve the old platform? Do we want to replace? What do we want to integrate with? What do we want to get rid of? What's the data going to look like coming in? What is it we want to report on? How do we know it's successful? All of that we find out during discovery. And the next part is we build what we found out. So once we've built it, what we have designed and conceptualized and created comes to life. That's our go live date. So after it's gone live, it matures as we mature with the product. So that's the life cycle of a project. Now, what we do as project managers is that we have lots and lots of meetings, lots and lots of calls or workshops. It could be in person or virtual, and we do lots of them. And they could be all around the whole life cycle. So things like your discovery kickoff, your project escalations that could happen throughout. So you've got workshops there. We've got steering committee meeting, a lot of ad hoc meetings throughout. UAT, deployment escalation. We have go, no go at the end of our testing phase. And then after that, we've got change mode meetings. So you can see dotted around lots and lots and lots of calls and meetings. That's what we do. That's what we should be very, very, very good at if we want to be a good project manager. So I thought, since that's what we do a lot of, why don't I dissect what a project meeting or call or workshop look like? How do we make sure that it is as successful as can be? Very simply, it's got a before, it's got during your call, your workshop, your brainstorming, escalation, your change board, steering committee, whatever. And then you have your after. That's quite simply 3 stages. Let's look at the before. Okay, so the before, we do quite a lot of things. We prep for the meeting. So just very quickly, anything that's I've highlighted in yellow are things that we could get AI to help us with. So just kind of keep that in mind. Broadly, we prepare for our meeting, review documentation, look at how to previous meetings gone, prepare status updates, something I will talk about briefly. Research is going to be there, identify any dependencies, especially during discovery. You might have meetings that are dependent on others. So for example, whatever that's been discussed in the field level workshop or the functional workshop will be a dependency when you are in the data migration workshop, for example. So knowing what has gone on may depend on what you discuss then. We prepare materials like agenda, supporting slides, discussion documents, prepare meeting logistics, who's going to be where, how, is it going to be in person, are we going to have access to meeting rooms, or if it's virtual, what are we going to use? Make sure that we're using the right link, because if you create meetings using Google, it will by default provide you a Google Hangout link when in fact you want to use something else. So I've been in calls where somebody's been hanging on in the wrong virtual meeting room. And then we've got stakeholder alignments. How do we make sure that internally we are aligned? We might have pre-meetings and pre-kickoffs internally. Understand who's actually going to be making a decision internally or on the client side, and anticipate objections. So this is all the things that we have to do before to prepare ourselves to set the meeting up for success. In the during stage, so the middle part of your call or your workshop or your meeting, these are the things that you will need to pay attention to. So you have to actually manage it. You need to make sure the introductions are made. You set expectations so that we all know what we're there to achieve, manage your agenda, track time, document any decisions. That's really important. Then comes the communication. All of this should be happening and should be flowing anyway. Talking business things, translating that to technical details. You need to read the room to see the mood. Are they engaging? Are they bored? Do they understand? Are they confused? Are they excited? So that you can moderate how you actually manage it. If conflicts come up, how do you deal with it? Is it internally? It shouldn't be internally to your team, but sometimes the client might feel a lot of big feelings and that could result in conflict. So you've got to manage that well. You need to create an environment of safety so people can speak up, especially for underrepresented groups or those people with small voices. You need to make sure that everyone has a chance to share how they think and feel, and also to check for understanding. The secret of being a really good communicator is to make sure that whatever message you want to impart lands in exactly the way that you want it to. So it's not just what I call a spray and pray, which is an FYI, here, everybody, this is the information you all need to know. That's it, my job done. No. Once you provide the information, you need to check to make sure the other party understands what you're saying. Then obviously a lot of decisions, especially those that project managers have to deal with, have decisions. So you need to frame them. Are there any assumptions that we are holding? Are there any unconscious bias that is affecting how we think and how we decide? Any constraints that are stopping us from coming to the optimal outcome? And what are the risks involved? And what we do is we need to drive to a closure at the end of the meeting, the call, or the workshop. We need conclusions and some closure. What are we ending up on? Even if we don't, what are the next steps to bring to the next time? We need to manage the relationship as a whole. Empathy, partnership, executive presence, balancing advocacy and inquiry. So what we believe in, you need to balance that with what we want to know from the other party. Otherwise, that can create conflict. So notice here, I haven't highlighted in yellow because this is during the call. What I believe very strongly is when we're in a call or workshop, we need to be present, fully present. I'm here, I'm talking to you, I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm reading the room, and I'm moderating what I say with what I see so that I get the outcome I want. Now, for me personally, I don't want to be using AI during the call. I don't want to be checking an app, checking my device to see what it advised me to what to do next. So that's why for the during, I have parked the use of AI, because I think one of the things that is going to be very difficult for AI to take over or replicate is the human connection. The moment when you and I are in a room and we're talking about something and we're engaging on this topic, I need to make sure that I am fully there, paying attention to you so that we can get to a good outcome. And that's why none of these items at the moment in the during part of the call is highlighted in yellow. Now, after, that's a completely different topic, right? So after we've got documentation, follow-up, distribute the notes, action tracker, update project plans. Now, this one is in between, because I don't feel that AI can do it totally, because it needs a lot of discussions and a lot of thinking and context to actually update that. But I'm having that in yellow because I think in the future this is going to be easier when AI advances more. Memorialize decisions. So document it. That's actually what I mean. Memorialize is such a tough word to use. Team alignment. So this is more of the people part of internal team. Debriefing, distribute the work, update any resource forecast, align on messaging, say, hang on, we just had a slightly tricky call earlier on. How do we want to approach this from now? What kind of things that we need to think about and talk about and move on from here so that we are all one as a team? Are we going code? Are we doing clicks? Are we doing this app? Are we doing all those decisions? Now, after that, we got the client engagement. So thank you for the call. These are the information that you've requested. I understand, etc., etc. And these are the expectations from the call. All of that can be, we can use AI to help. And then after that, the knowledge management, updating the risk register, project artifacts, lessons learned, best practice, all of this, they are the manual stuff that we can do and we can help. So you can see the before, during, and after, there are some tasks that you can use AI to assist. One more, sorry, totally forgot. Preparing for the next interaction as well. So scheduling, follow-ups, accountability, and preparing for the next meeting. So again, you can see from the before and the after, lots of stuff that can be assisted with. So now let's deep dive a little bit more. Now, note that a lot of the prompts I'm going to show you, I will be sharing towards the end, so don't worry about them for now. So using AI to help with the before. Generate meeting agenda. This is something that's quite easy to do, especially if you have past meeting agendas that you can feed it. You can say, well, I need to prepare for this or meeting type with this client. These are the key topics. These are the previous pain points. I would prefer if we had previous agendas, I would just feed them it and just talk through what I would like it to look like. Now, here are some tips actually, which I've found. You can ramble at your favorite LLM. So I use Claude.ai, and one of the things I like to do is I like to use my phone. I like to use the speaker transcribe thing. So Google Talk, I think it's called. You can hit that, and I can just talk, and it will transcribe what I say, and I can submit that, and I can just say, yesterday internally in our team, we were talking about this, and this, and I think it should be in the agenda. I think that should be like top part of the agenda because it is so important. We're going to need, let's say, a good half an hour for that. I would like, so and so to be able to be present, etc. So I can just ramble at it. And that's what I find Claude very, very good at, is understanding my rambling. So number 2, upload previous meeting agenda and also uploading previous project status reports. Now, I'll talk about status reports in a bit. So the more context the more info you can give your AI of choice, the better it's going to be at providing what you're looking for. So you kind of need to train it still. You can analyze previous meetings. So you, again, upload all of it, especially if you want to get better insights to say, here, what have we promised? What are the things that are unresolved? What are the patterns that you've seen? Maybe constantly item on the risk register has been at number 1 for past 6 project updates and actions not been taken. We need to really pay attention and really dig down into why this particular risk hasn't been addressed yet. What are the decisions that are made but need reinforcement, need more stronger kind of leadership to try and move it towards resolution. So AI is very good at that. Sometimes as project managers, we get stuck in the weeds or the loudest complaint of the day, and we haven't got time to step back and to say, high level, what are the important things to look at? Now, LLM and the AI is really good for things like that. Anticipating conflict. This is also really good. Now, what I like about this one is that sometimes, again, I might just upload transcripts from before, and I might say, look through all the transcript and identify objections. What are the valid concerns, data points on the client side that supports their concern, or data points from outside that refute what's being argued. Diplomatic response. How do we frame how we're going to talk about that, and follow-up questions? So there's a lot more things that you can ask it, but this is one very good use of AI to anticipate conflict, to read sentiments, the feelings of how people are thinking. So that's pretty good. Risk. Identifying risk is also a good thing. Especially if you are new in the project management game, you might find it difficult to know when something's a risk that you need to raise and you need to address. One of the key things about being a really good project manager is the ability to anticipate things that are coming and making sure that you've got a plan. So I feel sometimes, not all the times, that if a project fails because a project manager fails to anticipate, it's really our fault, because that's really our job. Our job is to anticipate. Now, sometimes when you're new and you haven't had the experience of noticing trends or patterns, you aren't going to be able to identify the fact that, oh, this person during our internal meetings have provided a lot of clues that they're not only unhappy with the meeting, but also maybe unhappy with their role, and therefore they might be looking elsewhere. So I would pick that up quite quickly and I would have a conversation with that particular person, but somebody junior may not. So asking AI to actually look at risks, especially internal ones. So what I've just mentioned, that's a resource risk that is internal to the consulting partner and not something that should be shared with the client, because it's our problem. We need to fix it. If we have someone on our team who isn't happy with their project or their role, we've got, that's our job to address, either, help them find a way to move forward, or maybe to replace them with another resource. So those are internal risks. And as a PM, you need to also understand the difference between internal and external risks. So that's also a really good use of AI. Now that's the before. And remember I mentioned during, I don't use LLM. So let's look at how I use AI to help with the after bit. Now this is such a game changer now. And you can see it's quite ubiquitous. You have so many apps that can capture and analyze meeting minutes. And that is amazing for me, because then I can focus on the people side of things. I can focus on reading the room. So here's an example. So if you do take rough notes, and I know people who do still, because the act of actually typing notes or writing notes or drawing diagrams during calls and meetings help with the understanding and processing of information. So you might ask your LLM to say, hey, here's my rough notes. Can you transform it into meeting minutes, summarize key discussions, highlight decisions, action items, note important client sentiments or concerns? This is really quite useful. Now, there are many, many apps that can do this, like Nota, like Read.ai, Fathom. I use Otter. Otter's been around for quite a while now, and I like it because of the data privacy clauses it has. I know that it won't use my meetings, my calls, my recordings to train their LLM. And also the transcription's pretty accurate. I love it for that reason. And I kind of use it also for my own transcription and my own notes. And it's got really strong and robust organizing facilities and searching as well. So I love Otter for those reasons. You can get it to extract decisions and stick it into a decision log. Now, one of the things that I find is many decisions are made but not updated, and you'll find that a lot that how the project kind of moves is due to decisions that's been made, and if you don't log them, you're gonna find yourself in a very tricky situation. Now, you can use it very simply to extract decisions and get the AI to, highlight them for you. Now, one of the things I like to do is get it to identify things and format it in a way so that you can put it somewhere. So a lot of us, we will have a RAID log, for example. RAID stands for risk assumptions, issues, decisions / dependency. So RAIDD. So this is what I use actually. So I might say, based on a transcript of the meeting, analyze what new entries need to be placed on our rate logs and format it this way. Highlight the type. Is there risk assumption, issue, dependency, or decision? The ID, description, impact, owner, status. So again, all of this you can discuss during the call. And if you highlight it in the call, your AI will be able to extract these pieces of information. When was it identified? What's a resolution plan? The date and notes. So you can already ask it to format it in that way, but you can also add additional instructions. So for example, I might say for all the new items, right, complete all the fields. For updated items, indicate update at the beginning of the description and highlight change fields so that I know how to mark it and copy and paste it into my spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, that it's likely that that's what I'm using. Obviously, there's a lot of professional services app that you can use, like Monday.com or any other of those apps, but I found Google Sheet and Excel still being used, because the thing about apps and online SaaS applications is that you might use them, and then if they don't suit your purpose, you're going to have to move them to a different app, and then you got to deal with data migration. And having it on a spreadsheet just feels safer. It's easier to share with a client and easier to manage. So that's why it's still being used more often than not. Now, what I found AI to be a lot more useful for me as a project manager. Now, if you remember what I mentioned earlier on, was that a lot of my projects are green. And what that means is that I am privileged enough to be in that position that my directors would assign red projects to me. And suddenly I have a project that's in trouble that I've got to manage. And I found AI very, very useful for that. So project onboarding and how to quickly familiarize myself on a new project. And that is the key thing. How do I very quickly come on board? Now, in the past, I would have had to read through all documentation, read through all the requirements, read through any deliverables from the client, interview and talk to all the people in my team, etc., etc. And it takes a long time. It works, but it takes a long time. Now, what I kind of like about that is that I am very good at reading people, and I love getting vibes from my internal team. I can get a lot of information that way, but this is so time consuming. Can you imagine if I get assigned a really big enterprise project that's been going, let's say, for 12 months? Oh my goodness, that's a lot of information trying to absorb. Nowadays, though, with transcripts and things like that, that's so amazing. So I can get transcripts from all the meetings and feed it into it, feed it into AI. So here's what I use. Have a look at this one, right? I drew this some time ago because that's how I feel sometimes when someone hands me a project. Don't worry, I will give you this prompt. So I can get lots of transcripts. I use Claude, so I use something called a project where I can upload lots and lots of transcript. It's got a lot more space, lots more contextualized space that I can give it so that it knows how to deal with things. So I upload lots of transcript, and I'll tell it, look, I'm a new project manager taking over this project. I've got a lot of transcripts. Please, can you analyze them comprehensively and synthesize the information to provide me with project overview, so scope, objective, timeline, and key milestones. So sorry, not just transcripts. I will also upload previous status reports if there is. Now, only if the status report that my predecessor reflects correctly what the project is about. Sometimes I've had PMs who say everything is rosy and hunky-dory when actually it's not. So feeding those status reports in will skew the information that you're going to get from LLM. So you need to be careful about what you feed it and where it's going to take its information from. If I know the previous PM is really good and really comprehensive with their update, I will feed that in. So it has enough context to give me up to date and accurate information. So in the project overview, stakeholder mapping, who are these people? What do they do? The influence? What are the communication preference and styles and history and context? What's the current status? Major accomplishment, ongoing work stream, critical risk issues and blockers. This one is really important for me as a PM, because if I'm taking over a project that's on fire, that's red, this is something that I really want to pay attention to, because that's the thing that I need to work on, right? What's the area of agreement and disagreement? Can pay attention to disagreements. What are the action items? The list of pending tasks and deliverables. You should already have an action list, an open action list. But it's always very good to get this report to compare it to your open actions. Because what I found is that if you are a project manager who's worth your salt, your action list is going to be pretty comprehensive, that you're on top of what everyone's supposed to be doing and the status. Sometimes within calls and meetings that some things are being discussed and you might have actions that have gone over your head and you've not captured it. So this is a good test to say, what does your AI think all your actions are? And what have you actually recorded? And just map and match it. If there's a discrepancy, you'll see, we've kind of made promises that we haven't actually documented. So this is very good. That's my kind of top tip of the day. What's the expectations that's been set? So that will be very good as well to understand implicit and explicit expectations. Any approaching deadlines or time-sensitive matters. Team dynamics. This is always very good to get a good feel of how people are working with each other. Technical and process details. This is in the realms totally of your AI to produce for you. Also, if there's requirements documentation, you can use that to check against what transcription have extracted Again, there are things that are implicit that haven't been written down, especially when I meet clients who say, hey, you've promised me this, but why haven't you built it? And the delivery team says, well, actually, it's not a requirements document, but it was discussed. It just didn't make its way into the requirements document. And then you've got the finger pointing, and the client will say, well, I told you, you didn't write it. And then delivery team will say, well, we've written it. If we've missed it, you've got to tell us why. You've got to tell us that we've missed it and we got to put it in. So, finger pointing, and that makes relationships, a bit tricky. So, this is great. I love that we have a tool like AI that can pick out stuff that I might have missed, for example. Even, with all my experience, and I can still miss quite a few things. And having somebody check and having an AI check where I miss stuff, it makes me more comfortable that I have, crossed my T's and dotted my I's. I'm more thorough. Some context, expectations management that I've mentioned here, explicit and implicit, where things have been misaligned, how expectations have changed as well. So if you have like 6 months worth of updates and transcripts, you can see how it's changed over time. So make sure your transcript also have timestamps. Otherwise, your AI won't be able to capture that trend analysis. Now, you see, I've highlighted the yellow things, which AI is very good at answering, even without your explicit request. But the ones in orange are more insightful. So these are things that you can ask of it. So cross-transcript insights, where conversations, let's say with clients, have not crossed into internal conversations, or where two things are being discussed and you need them aligned. Contradictions, for example, different perspectives. We want strategic recommendations, so most urgent matters. So when you skim through the report, you should already have a good idea, but it's always a really good thing to ask your AI for more explicit strategic recommendations. And this one is important to me. Please highlight any sensitive topics or tension points. Again, this should already have been identified within your report, but you're asking it to be more specific. Communication style and rapport between my predecessor and the client. How has that been? Has it been smooth, calm, or otherwise, so that I know how to be? Any cultural nuances or preferences, and any key promises that my predecessor have made that I may have a difficult conversation to try and undo. So this is my golden nugget that I can share with you. If you're a project manager, this is so useful for me to very quickly onboard myself onto any projects. So now, with that said, what are the tooling decisions and why Claude AI? Let me talk about ChatGPT first. So that's something that I've used before, right? So it's much better at generating technical documentation, integrating with other apps. It is a lot better at creating visuals. Great at coding assistance, has customizable output, so you can ask it to output in different formats, and really good at task automation guidance. Now, all of this slightly on the technical side. If I was a front-facing client, a configurator, a consultant, that I've got to do some build, I've got to do more technical documentation, I might lean a bit more on to ChatGPT. But for Claude.ai, here are some of the things I have found. It understands nuance. It is so much better at generating documentation that is client-facing ready, more effective at communication strategies, more sophisticated project analysis, which I love. That's my bread and butter, right? Stronger ethical reasoning. It is much better when you're asking it ethical questions, for example, practical implementation advice, and better contextual memory. So I have used both quite extensively to provide reports to do my task as a project manager, but Claude AI, in terms of functionality, comes ahead. I've not tried Gemini so much. I've tried a little bit and Bard before it was Gemini, not tried DeepSeek. But one key thing that is so important to me is it's got a much stronger data privacy and security policy that's in place, because we deal with customer data, and that's really important that it not get out there. It's a whole lot of messiness that I do not want to deal with. So that's my straight go-to. I am going to go for tools that are strong in data privacy for what I do as a consultant, as a project manager, where my client's data is topmost in my mind. So that's why for me, it is my tool of choice. Now, AI is really just a tool, right? Use it to help you glean insights from all the stuff, all the context that you're throwing it in. How to use it properly depends on you, because when you ask good question, you will get great results. So with that, here is what this is the QR code to grab all the prompts that I've been talking about, and you can use it, you can tweak it. It's not proprietary to me at all. I'm just sharing my knowledge. So I think and I hope that you'll find a lot of good out of what I've just shared. So connect with me. Right? This is my Linktree account, and you can see lots of things here. Actually, I've just updated. So like I said, I've just launched Consulting Fundamentals. It's only 2.5 hours, but it's really packed with a lot of things that you, if you're a new consultant, you need to know to orientate yourself in your organization so that you can set yourself up for success. Now, if you're a practice manager and you want to very quickly onboard any new hires, come and talk to me. We can talk about, kind of like a group discount if you want to skill up a team of 5, 10, 15, that sort of thing. It is best resource that I can provide to help new consultants. I wish I had something like this. It took so long for me to figure all this out. So this is like 30 years of experience condensed into a 2.5 hour fundamental course that you can do at your own leisure. And also I have things like sample chapters from my book 1, Discovery. So how to write a statement of work, things to think about, how to do a sales delivery handover. I also have a 15 tips for a new consultant. It's an ebook and it's fun. It's got lots of my drawings in there. And I wrote that for my Zenhow Academy, who was starting the new role. I think that you'll find it quite interesting. So that's kind of me. Very quickly, if I can talk about something close to my heart, I am currently trying, and I'm always trying to raise money for Samaritans, for people who are feeling suicidal. And this is how I'm going to do it. So if you want a signed copy of my book, which I will buy, I will sign, I will ship to you for a donation of £50 to keep our lights on, to keep our telephony going, so that a volunteer can be at the end of a phone line when we have a caller who is feeling like there's only one option out of the predicament and the pain that they're currently facing. I would be so grateful for your support, and thank you. And with that, I end my talk, and I hope that you find it really useful. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or anywhere, and I'll be more than happy to answer it. Thank you so much. And thank you once again, PDF Butler, YeurDreamin, Trailblazer community, and everyone that's made this possible.